Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here at Trumpful Reads, and in this video we're going to be going over my favorite books on the physical sciences that I read in the year 2018. They didn't necessarily come out in 2018. One did, but the other two did not. They just happened to be books that I read in 2018 on the physical sciences. And actually, they all ended up being books of astronomy, even though I was including books on like physics or chemistry or geology, things like that. I'm basically just splitting up the physical sciences and like the life sciences because I read so many books on the life sciences that I have I have a pretty decent sized list on that one. And actually, it was fairly hard to do make a list on the physical sciences just because a lot of them I thought were just kind of meh, to be honest, and really only these three astronomy books stood out really in any way. So if you have any like recommendations on books on like either physics or chemistry, things like that, I guess leave some comments down below because I'm really interested in trying to find some, but it just seems like the only ones that I can ever get into are astronomy books, and I don't want to read just astronomy books, but let's just get right into it. I have a let's see, I have a NetGalley book, audiobook that I listen to, and a physical book. So let's start with the NetGalley book, and it is The Book of the Moon. And this is by Maggie Adelman Pocock, and I just thought this was just a really good overview of the moon in 4 different parts. There was Moon 101, which is sort of just kind of the nuts and bolts of the moon, like what it's made out of, or likely how it was created early in the Earth's life cycle. You know, like what its size is and rotation period, all that kind of cool stuff. But then there was also Moon Past, Moon Present, and Moon Future, which I thought were just really cool concepts of a way to sort of look at the history and culture of the moon, both in the past, present, and future of human civilization. And like obviously me being a lover of history, as you can see, like the Moon Past section was just really cool, looking at different artifacts of kind of almost like early astronomers and like how they viewed the moon with like lunar cycles that were like carved on bones, things like that. I thought that was really cool, as well as with the the Moon Present and the Moon Future, of how the moon sort of affects daily life in the here and now, as well as what the moon possibly could do kind of in the far future. Just thought it was a really good overview of the moon, and it was probably my favorite physical science book of the year. Alright, next up we'll go to the audiobook, and it is How I Killed Pluto and Why It Had It Coming by Mike Brown. And this was kind of a cool kind of astronomy memoir-ish type book, where it's basically Mike Brown kind of giving his account of his almost day-to-day activities while he was searching for basically dwarf planets or extra what do you call them? Not extra extra solar planets or planets in the Kuiper Belt, things like that. And he did discover Sedna and Eris, which are considered now like minor planets. And because of these discoveries, and then a whole host of other discoveries, Pluto kind of got on the chopping block like the next year, and the International Astronomical Union, and like there's kind of that whole like debate on what is the actual definition of a planet if we have all these extrasolar planetary bodies. What's a minor planet, what's a classical planet, all that and stuff. But I thought it was pretty cool because it dealt with astronomy in a pretty nice detailed way. Like all the science is laid out really well. He does a really good job explaining things. But like I said, it's also a memoir of sort of his activities, like where he was doing his research, what telescopes he was using, how he went about using the telescopes, and like what he did at night to discover these objects and stuff. So I thought it was kind of a cool inside look at sort of the daily life of an astronomer, and that's why I enjoyed it, and definitely recommend How I Killed Pluto for kind of a fun astronomy memoir read. And lastly, we have Packing for Mars: The Curious Science of Life in the Void by Mary Roach. Mary Roach is a humorous nonfiction writer. I've also read Stiff by her, which is all about basically human cadavers. But she's really well known for just kind of writing quirky, funny, humorous books on scientific topics and stuff. And she fills the narrative is pretty hilarious, but she also has particularly quirky footnotes that she includes on purpose just to spice things up, and some of them are just pretty crazy. If I can just like flip to one, I think I gave an example when I did the book review. So once I don't, that one was later in. But all right, so like for example, we're talking about like V2 rockets early and kind of rocket early rocket science, I guess, the rocket programs and stuff in like the 40s and 50s, and out in out west in the Sierra Nevada. But the V-2's directional system was notoriously erratic. In May 1947, a V-2 launched from White Sands Proving Ground, headed south instead of north, missing downtown Juarez, Mexico by 3 miles. The Mexican government's response to the American bombing was admirably laid back. General Enrique Diaz Gonzalez and Consul General Raul Michel met with the United States officials who issued apologies and an invitation to come to the next rocket shoot at White Sands. The Mexican citizenry was similarly nonchalant. Bomb blast fails to halt spring fiesta, said the El Paso Times headline, noting that many thought the explosion was a cannon fired for the opening of the fiesta. So it's just kind of like silly, quirky kind of anecdotes. I just really enjoy stuff like that. I highly encourage you, if you get intimidated by nonfiction, I know some people do, she'd be a really good author to kind of ease into things, I guess, if you want to start reading nonfiction. She's got several books out. Like I said, she's got this one on kind of living in space. It's not necessarily like how we would, but basically what we're doing to try and make things like actually tolerable to live in space, because there's a lot that kind of goes on that kind of is behind the scenes and doesn't get a lot of attention, but it needs to be like addressed when you're going to spend a year in outer space, basically on a space station or what have you. But she has a couple other topics, like there's sex as a topic. That's a book I gotta get. I already have it. It's called Bonk. So yeah, Stiff on Human Cadavers. I think there's one called Grunt, which is about like kind of improving the daily life of military personnel, things like that. So I would highly encourage you to check out Mary Roach if that is if nonfiction is like kind of a genre you want to start reading, but you don't really know where to start, or you're kind of intimidated by these some of these dry academic tomes that I guess you probably can't see many of those ones, but yeah, like this wall right here is kind of like the boring stuff, if I had to give it a description, I suppose. But there you guys have it. Those are my 3 favorite physical science books that I read in 2018. Definitely give me some recommendations if you have any on, like I said, like physics or geology, chemistry, anything like that. Just because I didn't seem to do very well, to be honest. I think I read like 10-ish in 2018. And these were the only 3 I think that had 4 or 5 star reviews. So I don't know. I just didn't pick very good books. I haven't found any authors that I guess I really like yet in the physical sciences. So yeah, just leave some comments down below if you have any recommendations. And always remember, whatever you end up reading, read victoriously.